When I opened the door, 2 police officers were on my porch. There must be some mistake, I said, but one of them shook his head. Your daughter contacted us. I turned and saw her crying. Dad, she whispered, I need to tell you something. When I opened the door at 7:43 p.m. on a Thursday evening, 2 police officers were standing on my porch. The older one, a woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, had her hand resting near her holster. The younger one, maybe mid-20s, was holding a notepad and looking past me into the house. There must be some mistake, I said, my mind immediately going to the worst possibilities. Identity theft, someone using my address for fraud, a package delivery issue that had somehow escalated to law enforcement. The older officer shook her head. Mr. Peterson, Michael Peterson? Yes, that's me. Your daughter contacted us. We need to come inside. I turned around and saw her. My 15-year-old daughter, Emma, standing in the hallway behind me, her phone clutched in both hands like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Tears were streaming down her face. Her best friend Maya was beside her, equally terrified, her arm around Emma's shoulders. My stomach dropped. Emma, what's going on? Are you okay? Did something happen? The female officer, her badge read Detective K. Morris, Major Crimes Unit, stepped forward with an expression that made my blood run cold. Mr. Peterson, your daughter filed a missing persons report 2 hours ago. She says her mother has been missing for 3 days. The words didn't make sense, like she was speaking a language I understood individually but couldn't parse together. Missing? No, there's been a mistake. My wife Sarah is on a business trip in Denver. She's at the annual tech conference. She's been texting me every night. She's fine. Emma's voice cracked, raw and desperate. Dad, those texts aren't from Mom. What are you talking about, sweetheart? I looked between Emma and the detectives, trying to find the logic in this situation. I literally got a text from her 20 minutes ago. She said the keynote ran long and she was grabbing dinner with colleagues. Emma held up her phone, showing me a thread of text messages from Sarah's number. I could see them from where I stood. They looked completely normal, generic, safe. How was your day? Miss you both so much. This meeting is running late. Don't wait up. Standard stuff from what should have been a routine week-long business trip. I knew something was wrong on Tuesday, Emma said, wiping her eyes with the heel of her hand. Her voice was steadier now, like she'd been practicing this. Mom always sends me a selfie when she travels. Always. It's been our thing since I was 12. Every single trip, without fail, she sends me a selfie from the hotel, from the conference, from whatever city she's in. But this time, nothing. Just texts. I felt the first flutter of real unease in my stomach. She was right. Sarah did that. It had started as a joke. Emma had been worried about her mom traveling alone for work, so Sarah started sending silly selfies to prove she was safe. It became their ritual. Hotel bathroom mirror selfies, airport gate selfies, conference badge selfies. Maybe she's just busy with the conference, I said, but the words sounded hollow even to me. You know how intense these things get. That's what I thought at first, Emma continued, and I could see her hands shaking. I told myself I was being paranoid, but then yesterday, I texted her asking specifically about her hotel room view. She always complains about hotel views, remember? Last time in Chicago, she sent me 15 pictures of construction cranes blocking her window. The time before that in Boston, she was facing a brick wall. She always complains, but this time she just replied, "It's nice." That's it. 2 words. Dad. Mom would have sent a picture. She would have complained about something. It felt wrong. Detective Morris nodded, pulling out her own phone. Your daughter has very good instincts, Mr. Peterson. We ran a preliminary check based on her report. Can you tell me which hotel your wife is staying at in Denver? The Marriott downtown Denver, I said automatically. She always stays there for this conference. It's close to the convention center. She's probably stayed there 8 or 9 times over the years. The detective exchanged a glance with her partner, a younger man whose badge read Detective J. Hayes. Mr. Peterson, we called that hotel approximately 90 minutes ago. Sarah Peterson never checked in. Her reservation was canceled 3 days ago, Monday morning at 6:47 a.m. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I grabbed the door frame to steady myself. That can't be right. She's been texting me updates about the conference sessions, about the people she's meeting, about Dad. There's more. Emma's voice was so small now, so scared. I looked up her flight. United Flight 447 to Denver on Monday morning, right? 6 a.m. departure from here? Yes. I dropped her at the airport Sunday night. She had the early flight. That flight was diverted to Kansas City due to severe thunderstorms in the Denver area. It never made it to Denver. The airline rebooked passengers on later flights, but Mom never got on any of them. Emma's hands were shaking worse now. I checked the passenger manifests for every United flight from Kansas City to Denver that day. Maya's mom works for United. She helped me access the records. Mom wasn't on any of them. Maya nodded nervously, her voice barely audible. My mom said I should call the police immediately when we found out. She said this wasn't normal. I couldn't breathe. Why wouldn't Sarah tell me about the diversion? Why would she keep texting like everything was normal? Because she's not the one texting you, Emma said, and now the tears were flowing again. Dad, I used Find My iPhone yesterday when she didn't respond to my calls. Mom's phone has been in the exact same location for 72 hours, a parking garage in Kansas City, level 3, section B. It hasn't moved a single foot. I'd been married to Sarah for 17 years. We'd met in grad school. She was getting her MBA. I was finishing my engineering degree. We'd dated for 2 years, got married in a small ceremony at her parents' lake house, bought our first home 6 months later. Emma was born 2 years after that. Our life was normal, boring even. Sarah worked as a director of technology integration for a mid-sized software company. She traveled maybe once a month for conferences or client meetings. I worked from home as a senior systems architect, managed a team remotely, picked Emma up from school most days. We were the kind of couple that still held hands during movies, that had inside jokes from a decade ago, that texted each other photos of dogs we saw during the day with captions like, "Future third child." This wasn't our life. This wasn't supposed to happen to us. But as I looked at Emma's terrified face, at the grim expressions on the detectives, I realized I didn't know what was happening at all. Detective Hayes pulled out his radio, speaking in that clipped, efficient way that cops use when things are serious. "We've already coordinated with Kansas City PD based on your daughter's information. They're en route to that parking garage location right now. Should have eyes on the vehicle within 10 minutes. I sank onto the couch, my legs suddenly unable to hold me up. This doesn't make sense. Who would take Sarah's phone and pretend to be her? Why would someone do that? Emma sat down beside me, and I noticed her hand was trembling as she opened Instagram on her phone. Dad, do you remember Mom's ex-boyfriend from college, Derek Hansen? The name triggered a vague memory. Maybe? I think she mentioned they dated for about a year before we met. Why? Emma turned her phone toward me. The Instagram profile showed a man in his late 30s with dark hair and a carefully groomed beard. His most recent post was from Monday, 3 days ago. The photo showed a rustic cabin in the woods, all exposed beams and stone fireplace. The caption read, "Finally got my second chance. Some things are worth waiting 15 years for. New beginnings. Fate works, worth the wait." My blood went cold. You think he's involved in this? Dad, Mom blocked him on everything 2 months ago. She never told you because she didn't want you to worry, but she told me about it. Emma's voice was getting stronger, more controlled, like she was testifying. He'd been sending her messages on LinkedIn, trying to reconnect, getting obsessive. She said it creeped her out, that he was talking about what could have been and timing being everything. She finally blocked him after he tried to add me on Instagram. Detective Morris leaned forward, her expression intense. Did your wife mention any specific threats? Any indication she felt unsafe? Emma scrolled through her own text messages with her mother, and I watched her face as she found what she was looking for. Mom sent me this 3 weeks ago. She held up the phone. The text was from Sarah. Derek showed up at my office today. Just walked right into the lobby. I told security not to let him in anymore. They have his photo. If anything ever feels off, Emma, promise me you'll trust your instincts. Don't ignore warning signs. The message hit me like a physical blow. Sarah had been worried, scared even. She'd warned Emma, but she hadn't told me because she knew, God, she knew me so well, that I'd overreact, that I'd do something stupid like confront him, escalate the situation, make it worse. So she'd tried to handle it quietly, protected us by keeping us in the dark, and now she was missing. Detective Hayes' radio crackled to life with a burst of static. Unit 7 to Detective Hayes. Come in. Hayes here. Go ahead. We're at the parking garage, level 3, section B. We've located a silver 2019 Honda Accord. License plate matches the registration for Sarah Peterson. Driver's side door is unlocked. Cell phone is on the driver's seat, still powered on. Purse is in the passenger seat. Keys are in the ignition. No sign of the vehicle owner. My heart stopped. That was Sarah's car. The one she'd driven to the airport Sunday night. The one that should have been in long-term parking at the airport, not in a garage in Kansas City. Check for security camera coverage, Detective Morris said into the radio, her voice sharp. We need footage from Monday morning, approximately 8:01 to 10:00 a.m. Copy that. Security office is cooperating. They're pulling footage now. The next 47 minutes were the longest of my life. Emma sat beside me, holding my hand, her grip so tight my fingers went numb. Maya's mother had arrived, a kind woman named Patricia, who worked in operations for United Airlines, and she sat with Maya on the other side of the room, whispering reassurances neither of them believed. The detectives made phone calls, coordinated with Kansas City police, pulled records, asked me questions about Sarah's habits, her routine, her relationships. Did she have any enemies? Any disputes at work? Any financial problems? No, and no. Sarah was beloved at her company. We were financially stable. She got along with everyone. This wasn't supposed to happen to people like us. At 8:34 p.m., Detective Hayes' radio crackled again. We've got security footage. Monday, 8:47 a.m. and subject, presumed to be Sarah Peterson based on vehicle ownership, parks the vehicle in section B and exits the driver's side. She's walking toward the garage elevator when a male individual approaches from a white Ford Transit van parked 2 spaces away. I stopped breathing. They appear to have a conversation. Subject seems initially friendly, relaxed, then her body language changes. She backs away, puts her hand up like she's saying no. Male subject grabs her arm. Brief struggle lasting approximately 11 seconds. He forces her toward the van. She attempts to pull away, but he's significantly larger. He gets her into the van. Door closes. Van leaves the garage at 8:52 a.m. via the north exit. Emma made a sound. Not quite a scream, more like all the air leaving her lungs at once. I pulled pulled her against me, felt her shaking. "Can you identify the male subject?" Detective Morris asked, her voice tight. "Running facial recognition through the database now. Image quality is good. Subject looked directly at the camera for approximately 3 seconds during the struggle. Hold on." A pause that lasted forever. "Positive identification. Derek Michael Hansen, age 37, DOB, March 14, 1987. Last known address is Kansas City, Missouri. Registered vehicle matches the description of the van. White 2021 Ford Transit, license plate HGT 4729. Detective Morris looked at me, and I saw something in her expression that might have been sympathy. "Mr. Peterson, we're issuing an immediate BOLO. Be on the lookout for Derek Hansen and your wife. We're also getting a warrant for his phone records and financial activity. Based on his social media post about a cabin, we're pulling property records now for any land or structures registered to him or his family." Emma was crying again, but this time I pulled her close and held on tight. "You did good, sweetheart," I whispered. "You might have just saved Mom's life." Because the truth was sinking in now, cold and terrible. If Emma hadn't noticed those missing selfies, if she hadn't investigated, if she hadn't trusted her instincts, we might not have realized Sarah was missing for days, maybe weeks. We would have kept receiving those fake texts, kept believing she was safe in Denver at a conference, while Derek Hansen held her God knows where. Emma's ritual, that silly teenage thing that Sarah had started as a joke, had become a lifeline. Detective Hayes was typing rapidly on his tablet, pulling up screens of information. Property records show a cabin registered to Hansen Family Trust, established 1987. Address is 4847 County Road 217, approximately 62 miles west of Kansas City, Missouri. Remote location. Nearest neighbor is 4 miles away. We're sending units there now. How long? I asked. Kansas City SWAT is mobilizing. They'll have assets on location within 90 minutes. We're also coordinating with the FBI. This is now a kidnapping investigation, federal jurisdiction. 90 minutes, an hour and a half, 400 seconds of not knowing if Sarah was alive, if she was hurt, if we'd get to her in time. Emma refused to let go of my hand. Maya and her mother sat with us. The detective stayed, making more calls, coordinating the response. Someone brought us coffee that nobody drank. At 9:14 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah's number. "Conference dinner running late. Probably won't be able to call tonight. Love you." I showed it to Detective Morris. She photographed it with her phone, added it to evidence. "He's still trying to maintain the cover story. Doesn't know we're onto him." "That's good, right?" Emma asked. "That means he still thinks he's gotten away with it?" "It means he's not panicking," Detective Morris said carefully. "Which hopefully means your mother is safe for now." The waiting was excruciating. Every minute felt like an hour. I kept checking my phone, reading old texts from Sarah, real ones from before Monday, looking at photos of her smiling, alive, safe, trying not to think about what Derek Hansen might be doing to her. At 10:47 p.m., Detective Hayes' phone rang. He answered, listened, and his expression shifted. Not quite relief, but something close to it. "Copy that. Excellent work. We'll coordinate transport." He looked at us. "They found her. She's alive." I couldn't speak, couldn't move. Emma burst into tears, this time from relief rather than fear. Maya and her mother were hugging. Detective Morris was asking questions into her phone. "Is she okay?" I finally managed. "Is Sarah okay?" "She's being transported to Kansas City Medical Center for evaluation and treatment. Appears to be physically unharmed, but obviously traumatized. Derek Hansen is in custody. SWAT team breached the cabin at 22:34 hours. He was in the main room. Your wife was locked in a bedroom. No weapons were found on the premises, but he did resist arrest. He's being charged with kidnapping, false imprisonment, stalking, and assault." "Can we see her?" Emma asked, standing up. "Can we go there right now?" Detective Morris nodded. "Kansas City Medical Center, 2301 Holmes Street. It's about a 4-hour drive. I'll have officers escort you there tonight if you'd like, or you can wait until morning and—" "Tonight," I said. "We're leaving right now." We drove through the night, following a Kansas City police cruiser that had been sent to escort us. Emma sat in the back with Maya. Patricia had insisted Maya come with us for support. I drove on autopilot, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. Detective Morris called at 11:52 p.m. with an update. "We've accessed Derek Hansen's phone. He'd been texting you and several of your wife's co-workers from her device, maintaining the fiction that she was at the conference. He'd researched the conference schedule, knew which sessions she usually attended, even looked up restaurant recommendations in Denver to make the texts more convincing." "How long was he planning to keep her?" I asked. A pause. "Based on supplies found at the cabin and his own statements, he believed he could convince her to leave you and start a life with him. He'd prepared the cabin with groceries, clothes in her size, personal items. He thought if he kept her isolated long enough, she'd remember how she felt about him in college and choose to stay." The delusion was so complete, so disturbing, that I couldn't respond. "Mr. Peterson, your daughter saved her mother's life. If she hadn't noticed those missing photographs, if she hadn't investigated the flight diversion, if she hadn't tracked the phone location, we wouldn't have known to look in Kansas City. By the time anyone realized something was wrong, it could have been too late." We arrived at Kansas City Medical Center at 1:47 a.m. Emma practically ran through the emergency room entrance. A victim advocate met us, a kind woman woman named Jennifer Martinez who explained that Sarah was being examined but would be able to see us soon. 23 minutes later, they let us into her room. Sarah was sitting up in the hospital bed, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm room, talking to a police detective who was taking her statement. When she saw us, she broke down completely. Emma got to her first. Mom, you always send selfies. Always. Sarah pulled Emma into a fierce hug, crying into her daughter's hair. My smart girl. My brilliant, brave girl. I knew if something happened, you'd notice. That's why I made it our ritual. I knew you'd pay attention. Over Emma's shoulder, Sarah's eyes met mine. I crossed the room and wrapped my arms around both of them, holding my family together, feeling Sarah shake with sobs. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I should have told you about Derek. I should have. Don't, I said. Don't apologize. You're safe. That's all that matters. The detective interviewing Sarah was Lieutenant Angela Freeman, 22 years with Kansas City PD, specializing in kidnapping cases. She stayed with us, explaining what would happen next. Derek Hansen has confessed to planning this for approximately 6 weeks. He tracked your wife's travel schedule through her company's public event calendar. He knew she'd be flying to Denver on Monday. He booked a flight to Kansas City with a connection through the same airport, specifically hoping her flight would be delayed or diverted so he could approach her. When the storm caused the diversion, he saw it as fate. Sarah's hands were shaking. He was waiting at the gate when we landed. He seemed surprised but friendly, said it was such a coincidence, asked if I wanted to grab coffee while we waited for the rebooking. I said no, but he followed me anyway, kept talking about how we should have ended up together, how I'd made a mistake marrying you. She looked at me, her eyes red. When I walked to my car, I'd driven to the airport and left it in satellite parking. He followed me to the garage. That's when he grabbed me. Did he hurt you? I had to know. Not physically. He kept saying he'd never hurt me, that he loved me too much. He'd set up the cabin like some kind of romantic getaway, made dinner, played music from when we dated in college, talked about the life we were going to have together. She shuddered. He really believed I'd choose him, that I'd just forget about you and Emma and start over. Emma was still holding her mother's hand. Mom, I'm so sorry I didn't tell Dad about the selfies sooner. I waited a whole day before I said anything. If I'd acted faster. Emma, look at me. Sarah cupped her daughter's face. You trusted your instincts. You investigated. You gathered evidence. You went to the police. You did everything exactly right. You saved me. Lieutenant Freeman nodded. Your daughter's actions were textbook. She noticed a pattern disruption, verified the anomaly through multiple sources, documented everything, and reported it to authorities. Most adults wouldn't have handled it as well. Derek Hansen was charged with first-degree kidnapping, second-degree assault, false imprisonment, stalking, and identity theft. The FBI added federal charges for interstate kidnapping and wire fraud for using Sarah's phone across state lines. His lawyer tried to argue diminished capacity, claimed Derek had been suffering from delusional disorder and didn't understand his actions were criminal. The prosecutor, Assistant U.S. Attorney David Chen, with 26 years of experience in violent crimes, destroyed that defense with Derek's own planning documents. They found notebooks in the cabin detailing his surveillance of Sarah, his research into her travel schedule, his preparation of the cabin. The trial lasted 6 days. Emma insisted on attending, wanted to testify if needed. She didn't have to. Sarah's testimony and the mountain of physical evidence were enough. The jury deliberated for 4 hours and found him guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for the first 10. At the sentencing, the judge, Honorable Patricia Weinstein, 34 years on the bench, addressed Derek directly. You didn't love Sarah Peterson. Love doesn't involve kidnapping, imprisonment, or trying to erase someone's family. You were obsessed with a fantasy, and you were willing to destroy a real person's life to maintain that fantasy. Your actions were calculated, deliberate, and cruel. Then she looked at Emma, sitting in the gallery. Young lady, your intelligence and courage saved your mother's life. You saw what others missed. You acted when others would have hesitated. You're a credit to your family and to every young person who's ever been told to ignore their instincts. That was 2 years ago. Sarah still travels for work, but everything's different now. She sends 3 selfies a day minimum, sometimes more. Hotel lobby, conference room, rental car, restaurant, coffee shop, airport gate. Emma and I get a running commentary of her entire trip through photographs. We don't complain, not ever. Not even when Sarah sends us a selfie of her hotel room ice machine at 11 p.m. with the caption, ice status confirmed. Emma is 17 now, a senior in high school. She's already been accepted to Georgetown's criminal justice program with a full scholarship. Says she wants to work for the FBI someday, help other families the way she helped ours. She already has. Since the case made national news, teens' Instagram instincts save kidnapped mother. Emma's gotten letters from other teenagers who noticed small warning signs and spoke up. 3 other potential kidnappings were prevented because someone saw Emma's story and trusted their gut. Last week, Sarah came home from a conference in Seattle with a present for Emma, a framed photograph. It was the first selfie Sarah had sent from that trip. Standing in front of her hotel window, Seattle's skyline behind her, holding a sign that read, Day 1, safe and sound, love you both. Emma hung it in her room, right next to her Georgetown acceptance letter. her. You know what the scary part is? Emma said to me later that night. If Mom hadn't made selfies our thing, if she hadn't established that pattern, I wouldn't have noticed anything was wrong. Those texts looked so normal. He knew exactly what to say. But she did establish that pattern, I said. Because your mom is smart. Because she knew that if something ever happened, you'd notice. She made me her emergency system, Emma said quietly. Without even telling me, that's what she was doing. That's exactly what Sarah had done. She'd created a tripwire, a signal that something was wrong, hidden in something that looked like a silly mother-daughter ritual. She'd trusted Emma to pay attention, to question, to act, and Emma had done all three.